Hello guys, Simple Sorcerer here, and well, it's been a while, almost a month exactly actually, and before I actually get to the topic of this video, I think you guys deserve to know what's been going on and why I haven't been uploading much recently at all, or anything for that matter. So, before you start worrying or anything, it's nothing serious. I just haven't really been able to make any content whatsoever or upload anything. And there is really one reason for this. I'm back in school, I'm studying again. This new semester started, and I'm just too busy right now to really make much videos. Unfortunately, I don't have as much free time as I used to, and this means that I don't really have as much time to make videos. It's that simple. Uh, I do have some free time, so I should be able to start making videos again as soon as I get the studying underhand and I can start concentrating on videos as well. But right now, it's been a little bit tough. I'm about 3 weeks into studying now, so I'm just getting used to it, and hopefully things should move on back to normal fairly soon. But yeah, right now I've had a bit of trouble making videos, but I hope I'll be back on schedule fairly soon. So I apologize for this, and I hope you can understand. Also, even though I do have free time, it doesn't really mean that I can play. This is a boarding school of sorts, and I live here, so that means that I'm fairly restricted in terms of using the internet. I can't actually play any online games, so I can't play League or record League or do much with League at all I can really do here is edit videos, in terms of making videos that is. But I do have a plan. If I cannot somehow fix this and be able to play and upload and record videos during weekdays, I will instead just be playing and recording videos during weekends, and then I will be editing videos during weekdays and then uploading them during weekends again. And then I will, well, no, not all videos will be released during weekends. I will upload some videos and put them on private, and then make them public during the week. That is the plan anyway. I'll see how it goes, but hopefully I'll be able to do that, and it's some sort of solution. It won't be as many videos as I'd like to, but I'll at least be able to make some videos for you guys, and hopefully I'll be able to make more soon. So yeah, there you go. That's my message, and again, I apologize. I hope you understand. Okay, now to the actual topic of this video. A lot of people have been asking me what I actually think about the current state of Veigar, and the last time I really spoke about Veigar in terms of balance, it was back in patch 5.4, or right after it, and I was not so happy. So, basically, without going too much into detail about this whole Veigar, the story of Veigar, I'll do another video on Veigar's story as a champion, his balance, and his ups and downs in the meta and so on. But without going too much into detail, um, Veigar saw huge nerfs after the removal of DFG, which was actually a very good item on him, and Riot itself considered it one of his core items, so they decided to compensate him with buffs, and instead they made a rework which wasn't so successful. On the actual release of the rework, it was horrible. Right now, it's a completely different story, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but during the release of the rework, it was really, really bad. The stun delay was huge, and he didn't have as much range or as good of a passive as he does right now. A lot of things have happened since then. So basically, things were really bad in patch 5.4. It's been 5 months, but what's the state of Veigar right now? What's happened since then? And what do I think about Veigar right now? So, to put it short, does Veigar need buffs? Do I think Veigar needs buff? No, not really. I think he's actually in a pretty good state right now, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but that's the very short answer. Now, for the long answer, you'll have to watch the rest of the video, and I will go into fairly a lot of detail, and I hope you'll be okay with that. It might take some time, but I'll try to explain why I think as I do, and which changes Veigar might see in my point of view, what changes he might need if he needs any changes at all. But as I said, I don't really think he needs any changes. I think he's in a pretty good state. So let's go on with it, shall we? Basically, some news. Okay. So Riot themselves think that Veigar isn't in such a good state right now. At least Medler seems to think that, and they are actually buffing him, which I wasn't really expecting. Veigar hasn't seen any buffs for a long time, and I wasn't really expecting him to get any buffs for a while, but he is getting buffs now. Not any huge buffs to say, but they are buffs. So he is getting another, or a change to his Q. He'll get AP, even if he doesn't get the kill itself, he'll get AP if he just gets an assist on a champion kill, which should help him quite a bit in team fights, since usually you can't really kill everyone on the enemy team. Maybe you get 1 or 2, maybe 3 if you're lucky, but getting a pentakill is pretty rare, especially with a champion like Veigar who doesn't have like huge resets or anything like that. So being able to get AP from just assists will help him quite a bit, since you can actually land a stun or W on several people, and even if you don't get all the kills yourself, your team secures the kills and you'll get more AP. So basically this will help you scale a bit better. It will make it faster in terms of AP scaling, and it will just overall make Veigar a bit stronger than he is right now. Now the other change I think is a bit more interesting, and they are actually doing another change, which is the similar thing to the to the stun. Sorry, similar to the changes they made to his stun. Basically, they're moving the delay from his W, which is still 1.2 seconds. They're moving the delay to the actual cost. So instead of having to wait for the cost time, the delay now starts as soon as you press W. So as soon as you cast your Dark Matter, the delay begins, and 1.2 seconds later, it will hit the ground. Now, the enemy will still have as much of a time to react from the indicator. They'll still have 1.2 seconds from when they see the indicator and start hearing the sound. But it will land faster in terms of when you press the key. So this will actually help quite a bit. Now, the reason for this is that when you land your stun on someone, usually they can actually run away before the W hits if they have Mercury Threads, or if they are, say, Fizz, who can just press E and go untargetable. People with untargetable abilities can avoid your damage simply by just using the active right before your W hits, and your W delay is usually just slow enough for them to activate their ability if they have Mercury Threads or some other kinds of tenacity. So this will help quite a bit, especially early game when you don't have as many points in your stun. You will still be able to land your W, because the difference between pressing W now and landing the Dark Matter compared to before will be much smaller, since, well, there is no delay anymore between the key press and the actual delay starting. So when you place a stun on someone and you throw down your W, Dark Matter will hit faster, and it will help you be able to put down your combo faster, essentially, and it should be able to help you secure more kills and overall just have an easier time dealing with mobile assassins, especially ones with blinks and untargetable abilities like Fizz. So I'm very thankful for these changes. Actually, they're pretty good, and while they're not the hugest changes, they're still pretty good, and I think they're going to help him quite a bit. But as I said, I don't really think he needs that many buffs, or any buffs at all right now. I think he's in a pretty good spot. And, well, since I last talked about Veigar, he's gotten a lot of changes. He's got longer ranges, he's got a better passive that gives him more mana, and he's just overall a bit stronger than he was in 5.4, quite a bit stronger actually. His win rate isn't too huge, but for anyone who has played Veigar for a while, you should be okay with him. Really the only place I see him struggling a lot is dealing with assassins. But assassins have always been annoying for Veigar, and I don't think you should be able to completely dominate assassins without struggling. I think assassins should be a counterpick to Veigar, because I value counterpicks, and I think they add to the game in terms of variety, in terms of how the different games vary from each other. If every champion was exactly the same, well, not exactly the same, but if none of the champions had any counters, basically, that's what I'm trying to say. If all the champions were perfectly balanced or whatever, and there were no actual counter picks, then the better player would always win. And I don't really think that's necessarily a good thing. I think the game is a lot more interesting with counters, because even if you aren't necessarily as good as someone else that you're playing against in that lane, you could beat them if you know who to pick and what to build and how to play with your champion. So say you're against a Veigar who's played Veigar for a lot of time, and you're not a mid lane mage, mid lane main. You do have a chance of winning if you pick assassins like Zed or Fizz or Talon or whatever. And even if you're not the best on those champions, as long as you know what you're doing, basically, you should be okay. So I think this is actually a good thing. I think this means that uh, champion select has a lot more importance, and pick and ban phase has a lot more importance. Uh, there's a lot more uh, depth in the game. Depth. Sorry. So yeah, I think it's actually a good thing that there are counter picks, and I don't necessarily think you should get rid of counter picks. So uh, although you might be struggling against assassins, I think that's not a bad thing. But that brings me on to the next topic. So another post here that someone linked me. It's actually a Diamond 3 Veigar main who has a proposal. And this person thinks that you should, the Riot should just get rid of the enemy AP scaling from Veigar's ulti, and instead just buff Veigar's AP scaling on the ulti itself. So basically, this would mean that instead of dealing extra damage to mages and other champions who build AP, essentially just mages, but there you go. Instead of dealing extra damage to mages, instead of being able to, well, insta-burst people who have a lot of AP, Veigar will instead have an easier time dealing with assassins, AD champions, and other counter picks, because they don't build AP, and he'll instead have more scaling by himself. So as long as Veigar gets AP, and as long as he gets his items, he'll deal more damage. I think this will be a huge buff if they implement it. I think this would be a huge buff to Veigar, and I think it will help him deal a lot more damage to his counters, since champions like Zed and Talon and Irelia, Riven, and so on, they don't build any AP, but you'll be able to burst them easier if they implement this. And although they might not be able to buff the AP scaling on Veigar too much compared to how it is right now, they should be able to bring it up a few notches if they remove the AP scaling from the enemy AP. But I don't really think this is a good thing. I'm a bit split on this issue. So basically, I think this would help Veigar deal a lot. Would help him deal with his counters. But I don't really think that's such a good idea. And I also think that this value in the way his ulti currently works, I think it's a very unique ability. Not in the way that it's targetable and nukes people. I mean, that's basic. But the way that it actually functions, I don't think there's any other ability like this really that deals extra damage depending on how much damage your enemy can deal. So basically, this helps shape Veigar's identity, and I don't think they should get rid of it. Veigar, when he was released, was actually much more of an anti-mage than he is right now, and that goes back to his old passives, which actually stole AP from enemies. I'll go more into depth on that in another video, but his ulti has always been a core part of him being able to counter mages, and also come back from lanes where he actually lost. So I think this is actually important for Veigar. I think that the fact that you can fall behind a lane, but as long as you Q farm up a bit, you can still burst your enemy down, even if they're levels ahead, even if they have far more gold. As long as they build damage because they want to nuke your team, as long as they underestimate you, you can still come back, because your ulti lets you come back as long as you have some AP of your own and you know who to cast it on. And I think this is actually important for his identity as a mage, anti-mage, and as Veigar, basically. As Veigar himself says, if the tables were turned, he would show no mercy, and I think this plays a bit of a role in the way his ulti actually works. If you underestimate Veigar, you will get hurt. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think that's a very good thing. I think that's part of his core identity, and I don't want to get rid of it. But, as you can see here, actually you can't see it here. Let me see. Sorry about this. So, for some reason the comments didn't load. But, basically, a Riot here, or a member of Riot, has responded to this post. Which you can't... Okay, there we go. So a member of Riot has responded to this post and is actually saying that they've seen similar posts before, and that other people think similarly. And if you go further down here, another person responds that there are better anti-mages, like Cho'Gath, Galio, Kassadin, Morgana, and Ryze. And I do actually agree with this. I think these champions are more anti-mages than Veigar, but I still think that anti-mage is part of his identity, and I don't want them to get rid of it completely. Even if it would buff him, I don't think they should really get rid of it. But there seems to be a lot of people who think this way, and they might get rid of it in the future in order to buff him up a bit. But I don't think this is the way to buff Veigar, if you're supposed to buff him at all. I think he's in a pretty good spot right now, because as long as you know how to play, as long as you stay safe in laning phase, even if you're countered, as long as you stay under turret, or just away from your opponent, and farm safely with your Q, you do get AP. And the way the new AP items work, Veigar has a much easier time being able to get his core items, being able to get to that power spike, and then being able to continuously AP Q farm and get even stronger throughout the game. So I don't really think he needs any buffs. If there is any buff I think he needs, it might be to actually reduce the delay of his E even further, just a bit further, the delay of his stun, because I still have quite a issue landing it most of the time, and you really have to use your brain a lot and outplay the enemy in terms of where you put the stun, when you put the stun, and look around, see if there's any walls nearby, see if there's a turret nearby, see if there's minions nearby that could potentially block them and make them have to choose between running into your stun or running into your Q or your W. So you can actually put down your stun, and then you can W or Q and try to force them into your stun or try to force them into your W. They have to choose basically. But it's very hard to do, and I don't think that it's really fair. I don't really know how to put this, but I think there are other mages who can do Veigar's job much easier. Not necessarily as good, but much easier. Say Annie, for example. Sure, she doesn't have as long a range on her stun, but her stun is much easier to use than Veigar's, and it deals damage, and she can just completely nuke teams with it. Whereas Veigar needs a lot more practice with a stun, and you really need to basically force people into your stun, or use it as some sort of zoning tool, basically. Which I think is a pretty cool thing, but I still kind of miss the old stun in the way that you could outplay people, put the stun on top of them, or put it over walls and so on to catch people. It's not as much of a thing anymore. And I did see someone comment, I'm not sure where, but someone said that maybe they could add vision to his E, so that if you put your stun into a bush, you could actually see there. Right now you get vision from your W, but having to use your W just to scout a bush is a bit unfortunate when you want to stun someone who you already know is somewhere in the bush, and if you place your W, I mean, you're already going to miss your W if you miss your stun. So instead, I think it would be kind of cool if you can actually use your E to scout, and also your E has longer range, so you'd be able to scout more safely and into more bushes, and you'd be able to pick people off in a much better way. I think that would be a kind of cool change. I don't know if it would be completely overpowered, but I think it could be worth a try to put it on PB and see how it works, basically. But that's not really what I wanted to talk about. So the main thing that I wanted to say is that I think Veigar is in a pretty good spot right now, but if he was to get any buff, I have a little bit of a suggestion, and this might be going a bit overboard. It's a pretty huge change, but I think it would be a really cool thing that a lot of Veigar mains would like, or at least I think they would. Personally, I think it would be a very cool thing, and a lot of people who played Veigar for a long time might agree with me. So basically, the old Veigar had the ability to use Deathfire Grasp. And now Deathfire Grasp would buff your damage onto whoever you used it on. It would cost the active Doom, which would then debuff the enemy into taking more damage from all magic sources. But that seemed to be a bit problematic since everyone could get it, and it buffed damage sources from all magic damage, which magic damage from all magic sources. So they had to remove it, basically. That's what I'm trying to say, and they did. And then they tried to compensate Veigar for removing Deathfire Grasp with all these reworks and all these ability changes. I have a question. Why not bring back Deathfire Grasp? Why not make it like Victor's passive? but instead give Veigar the ability to have Deathfire Grasp in the game as a unique item for him. No one else could get it. Now, I actually think Riot wouldn't be too much against this because they themselves buffed Veigar or wanted to buff Veigar. They wanted to compensate Veigar for removing Deathfire Grasp. So I think they actually considered it a core item on him. And I too consider it a core item on him. And now that it's gone from the game, Veigar's playstyle has shifted quite immensely. He's more of a poke mage now. He's more of a poke zone mage with a lot of burst late game. But early game, he's not as much of a burst mage, and he doesn't have as much burst potential as he used to. Both Deathfire Grasp removal and his ult nerf made him a bit weaker in the burst department, but instead he's a bit better in the poking department, with the increased ranges and so on. Now I think that changing Veigar's passive once again, which they have changed his passive in the past. I did mention his old passives. They could change his passive again, because the current passive is very good for Veigar, but it's not very fun, is it? I mean, it helps you Q farm more. It helps you stay out of being in the state of, well, being out of mana. It helps you stay healthy in terms of mana and being able to Q farm and poke your enemy and so on. And it's a good passive, but it's not that fun. I mean, essentially, it's just a chalice path, but it's a bit better and, well, it's free. But that's it. So instead of having a tool which lets Veigar Q farm more, why not give him burst some other way? Why not give him the DFG back? And now, I don't know if they would make this the old DFG, which I really doubt they would, like the very old one where you could basically one-shot a Mundo, it added damage depending on your total AP, so if you had 1000 AP you could just one-shot anyone no matter what. It did more than 100% of maximum health. I don't think they should bring that back. That was a bit overpowered, I'd have to admit that. But I think they could add the new DFG back, the one that they removed. I think they could add that back in some way. And now I think that they have to make some changes. They could change the active to just increasing Veigar's damage. That's one thing. I think they could also either nerf the cooldown reduction a bit or nerf the actual active damage a bit and then let you upgrade it. So it would be a bit like the Victor item where you can upgrade it and then the final level could either be the DFG that they removed or it could be an even stronger version of the DFG that actually gives mana regen or so. A very old version of DFG actually did give mana regen, so I don't think that's too far off, and I think it could be a very cool thing. It would also help him in a way that he would still get the mana regen that he does right now, but much later in the game. And instead, he will have more burst early, and an active that actually helps him do what he wants to do, which is burst people. It also helps him in the way that, I mean, you have more of a choice with who you want to burst and how you want to use a combo. So when DFG was still a thing, you could stun 3 people, and you could put your DFG on one person, your W on all 3, and then choose who you want to Q and who you want to ult. But right now, Veigar's Q hits 2 people, Veigar's W can hit multiple people, and there's no DFG. So the only thing he really has to choose is who to ulti. Before there was more of a choice and there was more of a risk-reward thing. Like you could either go for many people and spread out your burst, or you could concentrate all your burst on one person and just blow them up. And I think it was a really cool thing. I think it helped Veigar be very unique in the game in that way. And I think that if they were to bring back DFG as some sort of passive, it would actually help him quite a bit and would be very fun and interesting. That's what I hope. I don't know if they will, and I'm really not sure if they would, but I think it's worth a try. I think they could try it on PB, see how it works, and if they like it, why not implement it? I mean, they wanted to compensate him for removing DFG, so they could just bring it back, right? And that's my suggestion. I don't know if it would be that great. I don't know how it would work, but I think it's a suggestion to be considered, and I want to hear your suggestions as well. So, okay, I actually forgot that I had the wrong one on. So here you go. Okay, now you can see my beautiful face again in full HD or whatever. I had the overlay on the entire time. I'm a bit rusty. Okay, so anyway, I don't know if that would be an amazing change, but I think it's worth considering. And I want to hear you guys' suggestions. I want to hear you guys' thoughts on Veigar right now. What you think about him, if you think he's underpowered, overpowered, if he needs a nerf, if he needs a buff. What changes should be made? If you agree with Riot's decision to actually buff him and currently, I'm not really so sure if I think he needs any buffs, but I'm thankful for the buffs, and I think they will help him quite a bit. I think, however, that they should concentrate their efforts more on the stun delay, because I think that's where people have the most issue, and it's the thing that drags him down the most. So instead, I would suggest looking at either his stun delay or his passive, or both, and they could do a lot of interesting things with that, I think. But I want to hear you guys' thoughts, and I think that's it for today, and well, for this video. So thank you for watching. Apologies for not uploading in a long time. Apologies for being really rusty and awkward. I try not to be awkward, but I'm not very good at it. But yeah, there you go. And thank you guys for watching. Tell me what you thought, and feel free to leave more suggestions. I'll try to answer everyone, and I'll try to make videos on important topics that I want to make videos of. So thank you for watching again, and I'll see you next time. Bye.